Shara Bullet fans, you might want to click off this video now. This isn't a hate. This isn't a hateful video.
What fans?
Dude, the ones in our comments that always roast us.
Hey, guess what?
We were finally right.
Hey, blur this out.
We've been saying this for time. He's gonna get fraud checked, and it finally happened.
I saw a video talking about, is it technically a fraud check on Shara Bullet? Because did anyone believe that this guy could have actually like been like champion or like a top contender?
No. Well,
like Peyton Talbot's a real fraud check.
Yes.
Because people are like, this guy is the next step in like the next version of Sean O'Malley. Like,
yeah, no,
he's 100%. He's 100% a future champion.
There's levels to fraud checks.
Yeah.
But this is gonna be more talking about like UFC Saudi, the middleweight division.
Felt so good to flip off all those Shara Bullet fans. I want to do it again. One more.
Oh no! It's like a kid when he learns how to swear for the first time.
My tism's popping right out right now.
That's crazy. I heard, actually, I should tell him, when you pulled up to the studio this morning, before you opened the door, I heard him giggling outside about how cold it was.
It's like -10 with like crazy winds and snow. Mm-hmm. It's cold, man.
Canada for you. Let's talk about
Imavov
versus Izzy first of all. Crazy. I don't think not many people expected it to be that quick. You know, if people were predicting Imavov, it was because he was gonna mix in the wrestling, and he has good boxing and good fundamentals, and he's just good everywhere. He's younger, and I agreed with that, but I thought Izzy looked good in the Dricus du Plessis fight pretty much until he got finished. Something just is off with Izzy now.
Yeah, it was tough because he actually looked very sharp. Like, you know, his punches were fast, kicks were fast. Like, he looked sharp. He looked like normal Izzy. But, like, I don't know. Like, the vibe is just different, you know? And we were saying maybe because he's on a fight night, like, you know, there's no real press. You know, he just basically gets to show up and fight. That could help him out just to purely focus on the fight. But, like,
I think that's a good point as well. Like, we've seen Izzy in the last 2 fights that he lost get super emotional. I don't think that's good for a guy like Izzy.
I think he was, well, I saw a video after that. He was super emotional during the weight cut.
Yeah.
Like, he's, like, crying during the weight cut.
I don't think, like, I don't have a problem with people crying, guys crying, UFC fighters. Like, Charles Oliveira is famous for crying before he fights, like before he fights. Sometimes I think it probably helps people to let the emotions out. Izzy, the type of fighter that Izzy is in terms of like counter striking, calculated, just a killer, like you have to be locked in the entire time that you're fighting, because he doesn't really have traditional defense the way that he pulls back, and which is how he got caught in this fight. I think it really just leaves a lot of questions about where his mental state is at.
Well, yeah, you look at it. You look at Poatan. Poatan is so dialed. He's only purely focused on the fight. But then we have a guy like you mentioned, Charles, who is fighting on these fumes. He's fighting on these emotions. He's fighting on that fighting spirit, you know, and that's different. Izzy's not fighting on that fighting spirit, especially when you're a kickboxer. Like, you have to be so calculated and dialed, you know? And, like, I don't know. I just think that, like, if it's the weight cut, truly, that is what is making him cry. Like, then it's like,
might be time to hang it up
or move up. That's the word I'm hearing.
I don't think that I don't think he's ever struggled with weight. He's never been like a weight drained middleweight. He's never had any issues with weight. In all the fights back to back that he had in his title reign. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he ever actually missed weight majorly.
Well, then he would have been stripped.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, he wouldn't have. But I think with Izzy is like there's nothing else for him left in middleweight. Who does he fight next? The winner of Cannoneer and RoboCop, or like
Brendan Allen?
Yeah, why would Izzy do that? Like,
no.
If he wants to keep fighting because he wants the paycheck, he doesn't want to give it up. You know, people struggle to hang up the boots, you know?
Yeah.
Light heavyweight's the option.
It's interesting. I think if there was like an exciting fight lower down in the division, like it would be fun still. But if you look at middleweight, like
if Shara would have won,
yeah, like I could have actually seen them making that matchup. But you look at welterweight, if one of those top guys loses, and there's an exciting fight for Carlos Prates.
Yeah, loser of JDM Leon Edwards, Prates, you're jumping right up.
Exactly, but in middleweight, you don't have that option. There's just not as many hot prospects. Bo Nickel isn't there. Hamzat's already too far up. Shara Bullet's he's not actually a big contender. So Izzy doesn't really have that many like super fights left.
The only contender really at the bottom of the rankings, I would say, is a guy like Fluffy Hernandez, but I don't really need to see him sit on Adesanya for 5 rounds.
Exactly. Like, this was really the last test to see if Izzy could still, prove to the young guys that he still got it, and he couldn't. It's a combination of him getting slower because he relies on those fast twitch muscle fibers, and it's a combination of his chin getting cracked and taking damage in Dricus and Sean and the Pereira 2 fights. Like, it's just an accumulation of his career, how frequently he fought, the kickboxing career. You can't expect a guy like that to fight into their 40s.
Yeah.
Especially when in their title reign. Unlike Anderson Silva, they were taking a lot of damage.
Obviously, with like your extensive career in kickboxing before we came over to the UFC, of course, by the time you're 35, you're going to struggle. That's why we see Pereira, he's got 12 fights, and he's still able to be Pereira, and he's getting better because he hasn't gone over that hump.
Mm-hmm.
Israel Adesanya has taken damage in 30 fights now at this point, just inside of mixed martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
Pereira has half the fights. And that's why we're seeing Pereira be able to be what he is at such an old age, whereas Adesanya, time's catching up to him. And I think also with the consistency that he was fighting at. Those quick turnarounds are not easy on you.
No. It's tough to see Izzy go out like that, even if you don't like him. Like, we used to hate on him all the time on this channel, but he was an exciting fighter for his title reign, and you appreciate how much he fought in those years. Like 3 times a year as a champion is pretty rare nowadays. So you reminisce about those days.
The good old days.
How frequently the champions fought. And now you got, I think Dricus is still active, but when we get to Hamza, it's like big yikes.
Yeah, let's move on to the other middleweight fight from UFC Saudi Arabia. We already kind of mentioned it in the intro, but Shara Bullet. He got fraud checked by Michael Venom Page. Yeah. I wish MVP, I know he didn't knock him out, so he wouldn't have been able to, but if he knocked him out and pulled out the Pokeball,
that would have been fire.
Cut myself a pirate.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to feel about this fight because I was excited for MVP to come into the UFC. Like, that first fight with Kevin Holland, I was super hyped about it because he had great highlights in Bellator. I think he might be, and this is controversial, one of the most boring strikers on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, being honest, he is someone that closes the distance about 4 times per round.
Yeah, and he'll throw one nice thing or one nice kick at that point, but then it's back to being so far away.
Yeah, it's you stay outside the distance, so neither of you can get hit for so long, and you feint so much that they get used to you feinting coming in, and then when you do come in, they don't react. So it's a weird style, and when he crashes in with that big overhand, it doesn't matter if the fist lands, if the elbow lands, like, it's a big shot no matter what because he's carrying all of his body weight behind it. And then he crashes into you and pushes you off, so you're right outside that void again. So it's like you're never in that boxing pocket where you get consistent combinations because he'll clinch and push you away, or if someone's actually skilled, they'll take him down like Ian Gary did. So it's like you either give him strikers who can't grapple because he will turn them into a grappler if they have any grappling ability at all, or what is the other option? Like, there is no other option for him because if you give him a grappler, he is finished.
Yeah.
So, I get that he had that win over Carlos Condit in on UFC Fight Pass Invitational, I think it was, when he did win in the grappling, but he's not going to use that in a fight, I don't think, very much. So any competent grappler who's been training, since they were 15, 16, they're going to have a major edge over him. And I just don't think that he is someone who I want to see fight any of Leon Edwards. Like, people are saying it's the clips. He's a clip farmer. The clips get him views, which is fine. I think in reality, he's like one of the most boring strikers.
Well, I think too with MVP, it's going to be, where is he? Like, is he going to stay in middleweight? Is he going to go back down to welterweight? Is it going to bounce back and forth? Because I don't really want to see him bouncing back and forth because then you're taking up 2 ranking spots, And if you're I don't think MVP should be in middleweight if he can fight in welterweight.
No, he said he's going back down to welterweight. So that's good. You don't want to see, like, Kevin Holland mess up your career because you can fight anywhere and then the UFC calls on you on short notice and it's just a whole mess. And
And the issue with a guy like MVP now is there's really no one for him to fight in welterweight. The bottom of that rankings, they're all they're all just old, and then you have younger guys who would be fighting down technically to fight him. Michael Morales, he already has that fight versus Gilbert Burns, unless he loses maybe. If he loses to Gilbert Burns, then we could see an MVP fight there.
Yeah.
But like a guy like Carlos Prates has no reason to go and fight an MVP.
They're not doing that.
Because he'd be fighting down in the rankings. So it's like,
yeah,
who does he go and face now?
It's also the issue of how old he is. Like, you're not building up a 37-year-old fighter. You're just not.
Yeah, so he's basically just a gatekeeper at this point, and
who can open up a big card or take a featured fight on a shit card.
Yeah, maybe he's Brian Battles 1 win away from like an MVP fight kind of thing.
Yeah,
Tapology has Brian Battles the third best prospect going into 2025.
That's wild.
Crazy.
That is so wild.
But yeah, I think it was Ruffy was 1. Prates was 2. They still had Prates as a prospect. So I don't even count that. So he's number 2.
Yeah.
Like they had him above Pant Silva and Bo Nickel.
Wow.
Or maybe not Bo Nickel. Maybe Bo Nickel was 2. But I know that Ruffy was 1.
That's crazy.
And I think Ruffy might be the worst fighting nerd.
He might be, yeah.
Outside of the girls.
Outside of the girls. Man, I was looking at 312. There is some crazy numbers out there. How is Wang Kong a 4-1 favorite? She will lose that fight. She is going to lose against Bruna Brazil. Bruna Brazil's a fighting nerd who's going to take her down and submit her. Probably in the second round. So if you want free money, parlay Bruna Brazil with... You could do Colby Thickness because Toporia's brother is a huge favorite as well. Mm-hmm. And dude, think about in the UFC. Think about Gilbert Burns and Herbert Burns. There's always one brother who's dog water. And this is Alexander Topuria. He's going to be bad. He has beat up trash cans with 0-9 records.
Let's talk about Imavov, and should he get the next title shot with a better record of rank wins? Obviously after Strickland, but does he deserve the next title shot over a guy like Khamzat Chimaev?
Mm-hmm. So he has wins over in the middleweight division, Roman Dolidze, Jared Cannonier, Brennan Allen, and now Izzy. So that's his 4-fight win streak.
And under the last 12 months too.
That's wild. Like, that is seriously impressive.
Well, that's why I put him as the middleweight fighter of the year for last year.
Yeah, for sure. And before that, he even has wins over a Joaquin Buckley at middleweight. And he had that fight with Sean Strickland where he lost. But he's been facing top-level competition for quite a few years now. And he's only about 28, if I remember correctly. So he has quite a long career ahead of him for already being the number 3 contender probably in that division.
Yeah, he's probably behind Strickland and Chimaev in the rankings. Yeah.
So that's super impressive. And Chimaev only has that win at middleweight against Robert Whittaker, which was dominant to say the least. Mm-hmm. But then he has that whole career at welterweight.
And catchweight career.
So true.
But I think with a guy like Imavov, it's obviously he has the talent, but just zero marketability.
Yeah.
You think that the UFC would be so into, having this French superstar.
French Dagestan.
Yeah. But he just actually has no personality. There's they have not even tried to market this guy at all.
Yeah.
You could have marketed this fight versus Adesanya a ton. You're in Saudi Arabia. There was zero marketability for this fight.
I would say Izzy's YouTube channel did more marketing for it.
I don't even know if they posted anything outside of just like the fight poster. Mm-hmm. That was it. Whereas we look at sports and it's like F1, huge French star. Lando's French, right?
No, he's British.
Who's the big French guy?
Oh, Pierre Gasly?
Yeah, Gasly. NBA, Victor Wembanyama. Like, get yourself a French superstar in your sport. Mm-hmm. This is your guy. But we just don't market him. There's no chance he gets the next title shot over a guy like Khamzat Chimaev, even though his resume may be better in the last year. But
yeah. Well, from France, I'm trying to think. You have Cyril Gane, Imavov, Fares Ziam. Those are kind of the 3. I mean, you have like lower down guys like Charrier and stuff like that. But those are kind of the 3 guys that are on their way up right now. Well, Cyril Gane has been up and now he's a bit down. But yeah, Nasruddin Imavov is probably the biggest rising French star and he has no hype behind him.
Nothing.
After this, he has more hype, but
I just don't see any hype. Even after this, I'm like,
yeah, it kind of stopped. Like, there's no talk about it after.
It's not.
2
It's
days.
The talk about it isn't. Oh, Imavov just knocked out Adesanya. It's Adesanya's not that great anymore. It's that thing in sports where it's like in the basketball when the Lakers lose, they're not posting that the team that beat them won. They're posting that the Lakers lost. Yeah. It's all about Adesanya losing rather than Imavov winning. when you just knocked out the second greatest guy in your division's history.
That's a good point. So if he doesn't get to fight for the title against the winner of Sean Drickus, who does he fight next? Or does he just sit out? What do you think?
He's going to have to sit out for a long time is the issue.
Yeah, because that Hamzat fight, at least another 4 months. Or
yeah, summer at the it's probably July or August.
The earliest.
But at the latest, it could be October. Like, this is a guy who fought 3 times inside of 2024. He's fought in 4 times in the last 12 months. Is he really going to sit out for a whole calendar year and wait for this Hamzat Chimaev fight?
I think it would kill his momentum.
There's no point. You know, you're a guy that has, he has momentum in terms of in-ring, but in terms of, hype from fans, nothing. I think you have to make the Barajo fight. You know, he would be fighting down a few spots, but at the same time, it's go and prove yourself. You go and beat Barajo. I think he beats Barajo.
Yeah, I do too.
I think that they'd be pretty equal on the ground.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the power we just saw to Imavov being able to put an Adesanya like that against a guy like Barajo who struggles with defense, it's it's really the only fight to make.
Yeah,
unless he wants the Strickland rematch if Strickland loses. That's another fight you could make.
And I would say that Nasruddin did better against a better version of Cannonier. Not MMA mathing it, but both matches, all they did was strike. So you kind of can compare it directly. Imavov finished him in the 4th, and Barajo went to a decision.
Yeah.
And got rocked a couple times. So it's Cannonier hits hard, but I would favor Imavov in that fight because Imavov does have a better resume by quite a bit, actually.
Well, and Imavov has come out and said that he wants a Strickland rematch. You know, he believes he can beat Strickland in a rematch. I think that'd be good.
If Strickland loses to Drickus, I think that the Strickland versus Imavov rematch could be good.
Yeah, I think that you might have issues with Strickland might struggle to take that fight.
Yeah, I mean, what else is he going to do?
I don't know, go fight Paulo Costa again?
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? There's a guy I've kind of been wanting. Give me that Robert Whittaker guy.
No, he's gonna get a Paulo Costa fight and then sit out for another 8 months being like, I deserve this. I was former champion.
Yeah.
So annoying. I'm gonna bleed for you guys.
But yeah, I think that realistically for Imavov, it's either Barajo or it's a Strickland after a loss.
Yeah.
Or maybe even a Drickus after the loss, because that's a fight we haven't seen before. Is Drickus versus Imavov. Yeah. Loser of this title fight at 312 or Barajo.
Yeah.
I think it also depends what they want to do with Adesanya. If they want Adesanya to fight Barajo, I just think that Barajo would be sitting out for too long. Like, realistically, Imavov could go and fight in 3 months.
He's already been sitting out for a while.
He's been sitting out for 4 or 5. Like, he hasn't fought since, I think it was the summer was when that fight night was. I think it was August.
Yeah, the summer.
So
it's been half a year, pretty much.
Yeah.
And there's nothing announced. So and the middleweight division's kind of tied up
at the top. So just take that Imavov fight in 3 or 4 months, and then the winner of that is just set up perfectly to go and fight the winner of Chimaev versus the winner of 312.
It would be nice if they made or even, this will never happen, but if they did do a Imavov versus Hamzat fight, having a true number 1 contender that 100% deserves it would be very interesting.
That's just another fight you got to have Chimaev make weight for.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're trying to minimize the Chimaev weight cuts. Yeah. All right, let's talk about, are we happy that Shara lost his O?
Yes.
But is MVP overrated after that performance?
Oh, yeah. MVP he's good.
Yeah.
But I think it's just that Shara wasn't that great. We had him. He made the rankings after beating Petrosian, who was in the 40s on Tapology's middleweight rankings. Mm-hmm. You know,
that's such a crazy thing to me. That doesn't get talked about enough. I haven't seen anyone except us talk about how ridiculous it is that Shara Magomedov gets ranked after beating Petrosian.
And I think you can't put a ton of credit into Tapology rankings. They aren't official UFC rankings, and when they do, I think that they're fan voted on too. You know, I think that they're committee, because they're whack.
Yeah, some of the Tapology stuff is whack for sure.
But it's good to have a baseline. You know, it's proven you where Petrosian is.
Yeah, exactly. You know? And it's not like Petrosian had a great record or a high level of wins anyways that are close to the middleweight upper echelon of fighters. You know,
yeah.
So
I think that MVP beats Shara here, and he kind of just is going to sit in welterweight as another exciting gatekeeper, because all that there is in welterweight is exciting gatekeepers and up and comers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then Usman just awkwardly Usman and Leon hanging out there at the top.
Yeah,
that's literally what welterweight is.
Yeah, I think MVP is going to get a matchup that favors him in style again, because if you don't give him a matchup that's favorable, it's just going to be a bad fight. MVP's not going to get any hype. They got to use his star power up while it's still around, you know?
Yeah. Even like a him versus Jeff Neal would be a fun fight. Potentially has potential to be fun.
Yeah, and Jeff Neal's a dog, so he would get into range.
And it's like, you know, that's like a fight where it's like, you know what? I feel like that makes more sense. Like you're obviously not going to see MVP versus Wonder Boy. That fight's not going to happen. You don't need to see MVP versus Neil Magny.
Well, I mean, if you want to see Neil Magny get KO'd again.
You don't want to see MVP versus Vicente Luque. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today. Go down to those comments. Let us know who deserves that next title fight in middleweight. Is it Chimaev? Is it Imavov? Is it someone else? Who knows? While you're down there, make sure to like it and subscribe. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.